Hello again to all subscribers and listeners of this channel. Today I will break down a list of 9 reasons why more films suck today in the modern age, why the movie-going experience is failing, and why the film industry might be in its beginning death throes. And yes, I do say this despite the success of Black Panther recently. With that being said, let us begin. Reason number 1. It's become way too expensive to go to more films. Very simple. When the chocolate bar costs about $2.50, the bottle of water costs $3 each, a movie ticket is getting closer and closer to about $10 each, a tub of popcorn can go from like $2 to $5 or even more dollars for each tub depending on the size. And you either go as a couple or as a family of 4 or however many of you are going to be going. So, simple breakdown. If you're going as a couple and you're going to be buying all that food to go along with the movie experience, you're talking about $37 or so just for 2 of you. For one night, for one movie that might suck. If you're a family of 4, you're spending nearly $80 for a movie that might suck. Even if the kids are getting a discount, you're still looking at somewhere between $80 and $100, depending on multiple different factors. And in some areas of the country, that's nearly half a grocery bill. So that's kind of ridiculous. And it's even worse ever since some theater chains really did start enforcing the whole... Now, it's not a law, but it's a policy by certain theater chains that you can't bring outside food or drinks. So that kind of forces people to buy what's there, when everything there is marked up at like 4 to 6 to 8 times the normal price. So understand that everywhere else, that same chocolate bar is like 50 cents. The bottle of water is $1. Netflix is $8 to $15 a month, depending on the package that you get. And ready-to-pop popcorn that you can buy at the store, that's like 50 cents for a little package that then you can then make at home in your microwave. So basically, someone could watch multiple films or mini films or shorts or series of their particular favorite genre at home for quite literally half the price than what it costs to watch one movie in one movie theater. Also, ticket prices have increased, and according to research conducted by the National Association of Theater Owners, or NATO, that's when it's called NATO, ticket prices have gone up a few percentage points almost every year, while simultaneously ticket sales have gone down consistently every year for the past decade or more. And I have the percents and the links to that in the description below, so you can check that out for yourself. Number 2, the films are lacking originality.
Go get some.
You gonna do superhero landing? Wait for it. Woo! Superhero landing.
Yeah, that's really hard on your knees.
Totally impractical. They all do it.
As you can see, they're lacking originality. Yeah, once you hear it and see it, you can't unhear it and you can't unsee it. There's been a lot of talk about too many reboots, too many remakes and reimaginings of films for years. Movies like the Ghostbusters remake or the rebooting of Conan the Barbarian a few years ago, or just a few examples of how Hollywood is relying way too heavily on rehashing of older material instead of relying on the creativity, originality, and risk taking of different and new storylines. Also, there's the blandness that is felt with more films now, because as you saw, and you're going to see more of these in this little bit of the video, too many films are using the same thing over and over and over again. The same poses, superhero landing. The similar scoring, a lot of the background tracks are starting to sound way too similar. The same sound effects from the same sound effect libraries. The similar color schemes. The Nickelodeon color scheme, that whole teal and orange thing that's been way overused. Similar cut sequences for the trailers. Similar looking and similar sounding trailers. Similar everything. And again, it's kind of difficult to sell someone a movie when they all become clones of each other more and more as time goes on. But that's what they decide to do. Number 3, and this is a big one. Hollywood is getting way too politicized, it seems like. Too many political opinions are coming from actors. Now, obviously, they and the directors, everybody else, they should have their opinions, I get it. But there's a point where it gets way overboard and it just gets ridiculous. Statements like the ones by Ben Affleck or Johnny Depp and many other people who are actors and in the film industry, or even just celebrities in general, like the stupid thing Madonna said about a year ago. Just celebrities in general are just getting way overboard with the Trump bashing, with the speeches about politics, just all these things that have nothing to do with their job. It's one thing to get political, it's another thing to get a little bit overboard with it. People don't want to hear all that over and over and over again. So, yeah. Experiences at events where they go to get away from politics, that's what most people do. Whether they admit it or not, they're actually trying to get away from a lot of the more serious stuff that's going on in the country. And instead, they're getting inundated with the political opinions and viewpoints over and over and over again. And it's not even so much that people might disagree with it. It's just that they just feel like they're getting drowned in all these things that are going into politics. And they're just getting tired of it. And it's getting more noticeable all the time. In fact, this may have gotten so bad that audiences may have become so alienated by what feels like a constant barrage of political opinions by movie stars and celebrities in general that they just decide not to go see films with that particular actor or actress in it ever again. Because they're just tired of hearing the condescending rhetoric. The drop in ticket sales and the growing wariness of the average American does suggest that this may be happening to at least some degree. And just so you know, I'm not a Trump supporter. I actually don't like Trump. I didn't like Hillary either. I don't really care for either of them. But I do understand the viewpoint of people who just get sick and tired of hearing about them over and over and over again. You'd be surprised how many people probably don't even like Trump, but they're sick and tired of hearing his name all the time. They're sick and tired of people on the left side, on the progressive side, constantly talking about him. It's like, can you just shut up talking about him? Just please. Please, just don't even mention him. We get it. You hate him. I don't like him either, but stop talking about him every single day. Just let me watch the movie, please. And people point this out too. A similar phenomenon can be seen in how American people are reacting to football. They're not watching it as much. They're tuning out. And again, I don't blame them. When you try to go there to just escape from it all and to enjoy the thing, and it feels like everyone's trying to just cram it down your throat, their political views, their political opinions, their social opinions on Trump and all these other things, you just want to tune it out and just get away from it. And therefore, the ratings start to drop for those industries that keep pushing their political opinions every time they want to their audience. It is what it is. Number 4, another big one. The race bending, gender bending, SJW crap has gone way too far and has got to stop. changing the race and or gender of a particular character, to me, is just lazy, it's boring, it's bland, it's stupid, and it's empty. And it gets especially tiring if it's done way too often. The recent revamp of... Oh yeah, this is not even the film, but it's more in the comics. What Marvel's doing recently is a really bad idea, and you can see it in the sales. What they did with Captain America, what they did with Thor, the Hulk, etc., is an example of Marvel doing this with their comic series. And if it moves to the big screen, I predict it'll be a very bad move by them. I hope they don't do it, but they might. Who knows? But it's not going to be a good idea if they go along with that. But it's not just them. The thing with Hemdahl being black and being played by Idris Elba in that one film, no, the original Thor film a couple years ago, that was stupid. There's no black people in Northern Europe, so why would the character based off of that be played by a black actor? That doesn't make sense. Like, I know that's not the exact same character as the one in the mythology, but certain things should be parallel with the mythology that it's based off of. That doesn't make sense. Another version of this, Dastan in Prince of Persia, Sands of Time. That's a white dude trying to play what's supposed to be someone in Asia Minor. Yeah. Now, this one wasn't as bad, but I still will prefer them choose a South American actor. But Bane in The Dark Knight Rises, can't remember his name, but they chose another white actor to play him when he really should have been South or Central American. But again, Hollywood just loves doing that for some reason. They like just switching things off whenever they want to, especially nowadays. And there's many more examples. And ultimately, as far as I'm concerned, it would be much better if what the actors portray and what the character was originally supposed to be conceived as were the same, as well as new characters being used or developed. That would help add more depth and originality to the story. So, let me break it down like this. How many thousands or hundreds of characters in the Marvel and DC universe are there that are not male and they're not white? Why don't they just use them? Why do they have to change the race and gender of the established ones? That's completely unnecessary for that reason alone. You have hundreds of characters to choose from that you can make a storyline about with them. There's no reason to make Iron Man into a female. That just looks lazy and disingenuous. But that's the way I look at it. But yeah. Also, characters who have a certain iconic status should never have their race or gender altered, as far as I'm concerned. And it would make more sense to just simply use, like I said, the gigantic amount of non-white, non-male characters that are already in the fictional universe. Why this is done more, I don't get it. I don't understand. Number 5. The alternatives to watching a movie are now cheaper and more convenient than ever. Examples of alternatives are YouTube, where anyone can watch endless hours of videos for free, and even get paid for the creating content themselves as long as they meet the new thresholds. Hulu, whose prices go from $8 a month to about $40 a month for content that can be viewed on multiple devices for multiple hours with fewer or even no ads. And that depends on the type of package you get from them. Netflix is huge. They got their prices ranging from $8 to $15 a month, depending on the package plan that you go for. Newgrounds. A lot of people don't know about Newgrounds, but I love Newgrounds. It's a much older website that, like YouTube, allows people to create, upload, and view original user-created content. Although that content is almost exclusively animated. So they're like, I don't even want to say the animated version of YouTube. They predate YouTube. But yeah, it's a place where people upload and post their own original games, their own original music, their own original animated films, etc. Very nice website. And it's free. Again, you can even make money posting stuff on there, I believe. So again, endless hours of content. And I believe they also can have their content viewed on multiple different devices. So here's what's similar about all these different websites, all these alternatives. All these sites have the same characteristics that really hurt Hollywood. they're free, whereas Hollywood films are obviously not free. Or they're very cheap. In comparison to a film, $8 to $40 a month for many days worth of content is a steal compared to about $10 for only one film that lasts roughly 2 hours. That's a gigantic difference in terms of what you're getting versus what you're paying for. Film releases must be watched in the theater, whereas the other four can be enjoyed anywhere with an LCD display. Even the phone can play a movie now. And then there's the ability to sit in the circle and tell stories like human beings have always done for thousands of years. To tell a story to another person, you need vocal cords, you need to be able to speak, you need to be able to share the same language, you need time, you need space, and you need the ability to not only speak but listen to whatever story someone is telling you, and you need to have people who listen to you when you tell a story. And that's been done for thousands of years. And it still can be done today. We'll get into that in another video. Number 6. The experience of going to a theater can be replicated with an at-home system. Now, if someone is patient enough to wait for a good legitimate copy of a film to come out on DVD, they can invest in a home stereo system, a big like 65 or 72 inch flat screen plasma TV. They can redecorate their living area or any area that's devoted to guests and entertainment. They can have the same movie going experience in their home, and especially now that they don't have to pay for the film every time, they can watch it as many times as they want. They can watch it more than once in the privacy of their own home with family and friends while enjoying a much cheaper, healthier, and more nutritious snacks if they wish, because they're going to make their own food and eat it right there when they have their entertainment, versus the food that may not be the healthiest and is going to be far more expensive in the Hollywood studio, or in the Hollywood theater, I should say, or in the movie theater. So let me break it down mathematically. A person could easily spend between about $1,500 to $3,500 on this type of system, which sounds like a lot at first until you do the math. They can watch a movie on it once a week, and if ticket prices stayed at exactly $10 on average for every film, a system like this would equal a weekly outing to the movies in about 3 to 6 years. And that's even better if the home system is maintained and taken care of. Then that home system could last up to a decade or more, making this setup well worth the initial cost compared to going to the movies every week for years on end to watch movies that you can only watch once until it comes out later on DVD anyway. Number 7. Too many films being produced and shown at the same time. A lot of people don't know this, but there are more than 700 films produced and screened every year, at least for the past couple of years. That may be surprising to you, but the stats seem to support that. And yes, that is a problem. Why is that a problem? I've heard this quite a few times from a lot of older people, but a lot of older folks, they lament about how when they were young, going to watch a movie used to be an event. Today, it doesn't feel like an event anymore. And here's why it was an event back then. The simple thing is, there were fewer films being produced and screened back then and released to the public compared to now. It's as simple as the law of supply and demand economics. When there's less of something, it has more value when people want it. When there's more of something, it has less value regardless of whether people want it or not. It will always have less value when there's more of it for each unit of what it is that is being produced. So when a film comes out today, and I did the math on this. If you don't believe me, check the math yourself. If one film comes out today, this week, there are almost exactly 15 other films premiering within that week in the movie theater. Like I said, within a few days of that same time frame. And that is ridiculous. 15 films might premiere in like the same week. And most people don't even know that. And that's hardly an event when your film is competing with 15 other films for the audience's attention in a span of about 5 to 7 days. So that's roughly 2 films a day. So because people are overworked, stressed out, overtaxed, etc., they're dividing their time more than ever. And people are going to look for escapes. They're going to look for things to distract them, to take their stresses away, to take their mind off of things that are bothering them. And if they're constantly bombarded with distractions like YouTube or porn, which are usually free, or Netflix and Hulu, which are much cheaper alternatives, it's even harder for film studios to capture the audience attention when they're churning out so many overblown, overproduced, and overly expensive content on a weekly basis. And even worse, we now have hundreds of films out every year that are more expensive because ticket prices for the average film have gone up significantly to try and make up for lost ticket sales. And if you start studying economics just a little bit, you're going to start noticing this really bad trend. And the bad trend is it's starting to look like Hollywood is turning into a bubble, a huge bubble. And last time I checked, when it comes to economics and big economies, bubbles always burst at some point. They can't just keep growing like that. So that's what it looks like to me. Number 8. People today are too busy or too broke to see every other film that's out. More and more people have to work longer hours or to take more than one job in order to keep a roof over their head and keep their bills paid. So they're working harder for the money that they earn. So if there are too many films to choose from, too many cheaper and or free alternatives, rising ticket prices, couple that with people's increasingly stressful work schedules, and you have a recipe for Hollywood's financial possible disaster. Just common sense and economics. That's all it is, really. And number 9, finally, Hollywood is an industry. And as an industry, it's becoming overall less relevant than it used to be. So let's look at what we have here. We have in this list of things that may be hurting the Hollywood machine. We have higher prices for admission to theaters, for films that are lacking originality, actors and actresses and directors and other film workers who are getting way too politicized with their opinions, what seems like an increasing pandering to SJWs and other idiots who don't even like watching these type of things anyway, through race and gender flipping of many characters and overplaying their religious and or sexuality orientation in the storyline, a lower cost and or free and more flexible alternatives to watching a Hollywood film. People are increasingly have and will use their resources to recreate the film experience at home using the home theater system. We're oversaturated with the amount of films that are produced and screened each year. I mean, severely oversaturated. 2 films are being produced pretty much every day. That's insane. As in, more films that have to compete more for the audience attention, while on average costing more than they used to. And people on average just don't have the time, they don't have the luxury or even the money to go out and watch all these films like they used to. So this is all a very bad combination. And no, I did not even get into the major problems with the recent Hollywood sex scandals in the Me Too movement. Not even going to go there. That's a whole different video that I might do later in the future. I don't know. All of these things seem to have done an excellent job of eroding the foundation of the Hollywood film industry. And because of all these compounding problems, it's looking increasingly like this might be the beginning of the end of what we think of when we think of the Hollywood film industry. It might not be, but it looks like it might be. But will the film industry in the U.S. actually fall? We had to wait and see. And if it did actually fall, if these studios collapsed, who would fill that void? Like, what would take up that space in that vacuum? And in what form would that take on? That's a whole different video I'm going to be doing in the near future, so check out for that. But yeah, I'll speak on that in a later installment, so please stay tuned. Until then, please like, subscribe, share, and donate to support this channel's content. You have a nice day. I'm out. Peace.